What is up, guys? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Emma if you're new here, and I love to talk about all things Peloton cycling and fitness. So be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. I post every single Sunday, and today's video I am really excited for. I'm going to be trying out the new pace target classes on Peloton Tread. These came out like several months ago if you had a Peloton Tread or Tread Plus, but they've been pretty recently added to the app. And essentially, it seems like they are power zone training for the tread. And I'm very interested because it does seem like semi less personalized than power zone training on the bike. But I'm very curious. I really love power zone training on the bike. So I feel like if this can translate to the tread, like these are the classes that I would gravitate towards. And I also feel like these are the classes that could like really help you rather than just like random classes on Peloton. So in these classes, rather than the instructors calling out an actual pace, they call out one of 7 intensities, so one of 7 zones. And then basically those zones map to a speed. Where I think it's a little hand wavy is when you're on the bike with power zone training, you do the FTP test, you get a max output, and then it like personalizes your zones very much based on that number. Like if your output goes up by 1, your zones will, not go up by a lot, but they will change. Here, there are 10 different levels, and each of the levels have the 7 zones mapped out. So for example, I think that based on like what I think is easy and moderate and what I think my zone should be, I think that I am in level 8, which is what I will be trying today, which means my recovery speed is less than 5.7, easy is 6.0, moderate is 6.5, challenging is 7.2, hard is 7.8, very hard is 8.6, and max is 9.2. I do feel like these are pretty good like estimates for me. I couldn't find any kind of like recommendation guide. Obviously Peloton's not sharing it of like my best mile map to which level, but I think that those zones make sense for me. Also, like one zone down is significantly easier, like recovery is less than 5, challenging is 6.4, and max is 8.2, for example. And then one level above is way harder. So recovery is less than 6.5, challenging is 8.2, and max is 10.5. So I'm very curious to see how it goes. I'm going to take a bunch of different classes. We're going to start at level 8 today, and then I'll adjust if I think that that's too easy or too hard. But based on these like kind of wide ranges, I think that that is the correct level for me. And that's kind of my biggest concern here is that the different levels do have such a big range that I'm curious like how easy it is to build up to a harder level. Like I've been running for a while now. I'm not like a super serious runner, but I have trained for half marathons and marathons, and I just feel like to get to level 9 would be a very big jump from where I am now. But still, I'm very curious. I'm very intrigued. I really love power zone training on bike. It's easily my favorite thing offered on the bike. So I was really excited when I saw that these classes were finally available on the app. I found them all under a collection. There's about 50 classes right now. And today I'm just gonna start easy. I'm gonna do a 20-minute intro to pace targets with Matt Wilpers from June 5th, 2024. And I think here we just like walk through all 7 zones. Maybe he'll give me a little bit more information. I love Matt. I feel like he's a great guy for this. He is my go-to instructor for power zone training, so I definitely trust him to do it on the tread as well. Overall, I'm very interested and excited to try this out. And the only other bad thing is they don't have like a ton of integration with these classes on the app, which makes sense that they're gonna like support it a lot better on the Peloton treads. But I am just going to like have my phone up. I'm going to take the class on my iPad, have my phone with my zones next to it so it's easy to reference. I don't think there's any way to like select a level on the app and have it appear in your class, which is a little frustrating, and I feel like that would be an easy function, but maybe that's coming in the future. But that is the running agenda for today. So let's go to the gym, hit the tread, and knock out this intro to pace targets class. I am so excited because I can tell just based on this intro class that these classes are definitely going to become my favorite on Peloton. I feel like that is extreme, but man, oh man, I just have wanted Power Zone on tread for so long, and I just feel like this fits the bill. I love Matt Wilpers in this context. Like, I am just so excited. So in this class, we just went through all 7 zones. I mostly stuck to the top of the zone. I assume that's what the numbers are that I have. I just got it off of a Reddit post, which I will link down below. And I'm very thankful for that person to share the different levels and the zones, because Peloton really doesn't share it for app users at all. But I tried to stay at the top. I do think this was an easier class, so going forward, I might have to adjust. But I do feel like level 8 is perfect for me. We'll see as I take classes, because this was an intro class, but it felt good that, when I'm in recovery, 5.7 or below, that is very slow for me. And when I'm at my most challenging, 9.2 or above, that is very, very challenging. So in this class, we started off with a 5-minute warm up at the recovery. So I was going at 5.7. And during the intro, Matt is basically yeah, a lot of runners run too fast when they're supposed to be in recovery, and then too slow when they're supposed to be running fast. And I'm like, Matt, why are you calling me out like this? I definitely have this problem. I mean, I think that my biggest weakness in running is my splits throughout a long run. I go really fast at the beginning and then really slow at the end when I'm totally gassed. So I'm hoping that these classes can kind of help me get used to not running at my absolute max right at the beginning, and space it out and have more endurance. So yeah, I'm just very, very excited. I definitely resonate with what Matt was saying, and he's like, yeah, we're going to work on that. I've also lately been trying to work on running at a slower pace while keeping my heart rate lower, because that's my other big issue is my heart rate skyrockets when I run. And I have been more successful with that lately, just going slower, keeping the heart rate down, keeping control of my breathing. But again, I think that this will really help too. After our recovery warm-up situation, we just went through all the zones. So we did 3 minutes at easy, 1 minute recovery, 2 minutes at moderate, 1 minute recovery, 1 minute at challenging, 1 minute recovery, 1 minute at hard, 1 minute recovery, 1 minute at very hard, which was very hard, 1 minute recovery, and then 30 seconds at max, which, yeah, I feel like I could feel the run progressing. I like the recovery. The 30 seconds at max was definitely challenging, but it was only 30 seconds. Obviously, as we're going up the zones, we're doing it for less work time. So yeah, I just really like this class, and I'm very excited to see how it translates to some of the other classes that they have that's not an intro class. But so far, 20,000 thumbs up. I'm very, very excited to continue taking some more classes. Today, enjoyability, I would give a 9 out of 10. I don't know, it just feels so good to have my zones, and yeah, I really need to practice on running slower, and I feel like this is the answer. I also feel like when I take Peloton classes in general, I'm very much in a rut. They'll say, oh, do a run, and I'll just autopilot go to 7, and I feel like this will push me to kind of stay better in zones, have better recovery. I'm excited. Difficulty, today's class was not that difficult because we did get a lot of recovery, and we did scale as we went up the zones, we had less work, but I feel like the endurance aspect is what makes the Power Zone classes difficult, and it was only 20 minutes today. So I'm curious how it goes up in the future. I would give today a 6 out of 10 for difficulty, but I don't think that it was supposed to be a super, super hard class. But overall, very happy with today, and I'm excited to continue taking these pace target classes. It's now a couple days later, and I'm ready for my next pace target run. So I'm not gonna lie, I went through the collection and I read a lot of the class plans because it's just so tempting to see what they're like. And some of the class plans look very, very hard. You're in zone 6 for several minutes, 2 to 3 minutes. And that's 8.6 for me, which is very fast. I think I could do maybe one chunk of 2 to 3 minutes, But there's some where you do that chunk for a long time and then you get like 1 minute recovery and then you do that chunk again. So maybe I'll try that later, but we're not trying that today. Today I'm going to be doing a 30-minute tempo run by Matt Wilpers from November 20th, 2024. And this class plan is like a warm up and then 6 minutes of challenging, which is 7.2 for me. And then I think like 1 minute of either recovery or easy pace, and then back to 6 minutes of challenging. 7.2 is like not a crazy speed for me, even for 6 minutes. So I'm kind of interested to see how this feels. It should feel like a pretty reasonable run for me. And honestly, on the treadmill, I almost never do kind of this like steady state running. I always take Peloton classes. So I'm interested to see what it feels like. And I'm interested to hear more from Matt. So let's go to the gym, hit the tread, and knock out this pace targets class. That class was definitely harder than I thought it would be. Matt Wilpers really humbled me. I feel like I had a lot of confidence in my ability to run at a 7.2 speed, which is an 8:20 mile. And I did do it. Like, we got through it, but my heart rate was a lot higher than I thought it would be. So that is like kind of interesting. Like, basically, almost immediately I was spiking to 170. And in the later intervals, I was even up to 175, which is quite high for me. But, you know, only improvement from here. And we did do it. It didn't feel that hard. Like, towards the end, I could have kept running at 7.2. But yeah, I guess my heart rate just disagreed with me. That was surprising to me. We did do a 9-minute warm up where a lot of it was in recovery pace. So I was running at a 5.7. And then we like did easy pace, moderate pace, challenging pace, moving up because challenging pace is what we did in the main set. There was no incline the whole time. We were actually like truly at 0%. I feel like a lot of the time the instructors are like, go to 0.5% for no incline. But yeah, we were at 0%. So the 7.2 definitely felt doable. I feel like the hardest part is not trying to like entertain you during the 6 minutes because you're just running and not changing anything. But you know, you just gotta lock in and do it. I do feel like the first interval felt the hardest for me. And then like once you did it once, it's like, okay, I'm more warmed up. I can do it again. And then we had the cool down. So very simple class plan. When we started the class, Matt said multiple times that like this was going to be a pretty hard work day. And after the class, I do kind of agree with that. I definitely thought it was going to be easier, but I'm glad that I did it. It felt good. And yeah, I don't do a lot of this like steady state cardio. So I definitely see the benefit in this versus what I typically do, which is like, you know, 30-second pushes or like adding hills and then taking them off and like just changing a lot of things at once. I really want to work on holding like my pace for longer periods of time. So I feel like this was a really good class and I really enjoyed it. And it went by pretty quickly. I do feel like Matt was pretty good at gabbing the 6 minute intervals away. I will say the 1 minute of recovery paces, I did not see a lot of recovery. I went down to 5.5 for those and I could usually like lower my heart rate by 10 beats per minute. But with only 1 minute, like I need longer to recover. But I think that was also the point. Like he didn't want you to fully recover before going back into the challenging pace. Difficulty today, I would give like a 7.5 out of 10. I definitely think that it felt manageable. So it wasn't like the most difficult thing in the world, but we definitely worked harder than I thought. For enjoyability, I would give it like a 7.5 out of 10. I think it is hard to keep the class lively when you're like not changing anything and just kind of holding a challenging pace. But I do like challenging myself and this felt challenging. So it was still cool to like kind of get this run in, see some improvement. I definitely went a little bit farther than what I typically do in a Peloton class. I feel like for a 30-minute class, I usually go around 3 miles, counting warm up, counting cool down. But in this class, I went 3.3. So a little bit of a harder run or a longer run than I usually do for a 30-minute class. So overall, it was good. And yeah, I'm curious to keep trying some more different types of these classes. It is now the next day and we're ready for another run. And I'm very interested in today's class. It is a 45-minute race prep run by Bex Gentry from November 4th, 2024. So, you know, we're ditching Matt, we're going over to Bex. I really like her, so I'm excited to see like her take on these pace targets. And the description is, see your speed work in motion in this longer run with Bex, aiming for a goal of 3.5 to 4 miles. So it's kind of interesting that there's like a specific mileage goal. I've never seen that on a Peloton class before. It's just in the description. So it's not like super meaningful if you hit that or not. And the running portion actually seems really interesting and something that should be good. I've never taken a race prep run before. I don't really know what that means. I guess we'll see when we get into the class. But essentially, you're doing 2 minutes of easy pace recovery and then anywhere from 3 to 6 minutes of a hard pace, a challenging pace, or a very hard pace right at the end. So I think the pushes should definitely be hard, but then 2 minutes of easy pace should allow a little more recovery time than yesterday. So I'm excited, and 45 minutes is a little bit long. We're getting into more of the endurance. That is my number one thing, is I wish that there was even longer classes. Give me a 90-minute class where we're running at, our moderate pace for the majority of the time. But maybe in the future, we'll see. I think the longest in these collections so far is only 60, but hopefully they'll think about making longer classes and really get into training for the longer races with it. But that is what's on the agenda for today. Let's go to the gym, hit the tread, and knock out this 45-minute tread class. This was an absolutely fantastic class. I really, really loved it. So first off, this class is definitely part of the 10K program, which is a 6-week running program. And that's why there was specific mileage goals around it. Bex was oh, if you don't get the 3.5 to 4 miles, then add a class on so you get it. So yeah, that's what race prep is, I guess. I was curious because I'd never taken a class like that, but I feel it was still a really good standalone class. We started off with a very long 10-minute warm-up. We did some easy pace, we did some drills, and then we did some challenging pushes just to spin up the legs. Then we got into the main set, and when I glanced over this set before, I didn't realize, but essentially you start at a 2-minute push, and then you do 3 minutes, 4 minutes, 5 minutes, 6 minutes with 2 minutes recovery in between all of that, where the 2 to 4 minute is the hard pace. So that was 7.8 for me. The 5 and 6 minute was a challenging pace, so 7.2, which is nice. So it's once you're getting into longer intervals, you drop the speed. And then right at the end, we had 3 minutes of easy and then 2 minutes of very hard, which is at 8.6 for me. And honestly, I was nervous about it the whole class. I knew that it was coming. And 8.6 is just not a speed that I would choose if an instructor was do a 2-minute push. If an instructor said that, I might choose 7.5, I might choose 8, but it's even unlikely that I would choose over 8. So I'm glad that there's kind of these zones to push me out of it and be no, you can do it. And honestly, it wasn't that bad. I did it. You can see my face is red. It was definitely a hard push, but I feel this whole class was structured very reasonably. The 2 minutes of easy recovery in between all of the intervals really allowed me to slow down my heart rate a little bit, at least. A lot of the intervals I was going in with my heart rates in the 150, which is pretty good recovery for me. So I was happy with the easy pace, and then I was happy with my pushes. And I really feel by the time that we hit the 5 or 6 minute pushes and dropped down to the challenging pace, I was really locked in. It felt really good. I do think this class felt better than yesterday. Not necessarily because it was easier. I think maybe I'm just a little more fresher today. It's Saturday. I don't know if it's just a mental thing, but by the time that I got to the 6 minute challenging push, I was locked in. I was ready to go. It felt a really good run. And then, yeah, I mean, the very hard pace was definitely very hard for 2 minutes, but that was the last thing we did. So that was nice. I am a little less scared of the other classes that have, 2 to 3 minutes of very hard pace work in them. So maybe that will be next time. I feel a lot more confident in my running ability after this class. So enjoyability today, I would give a 10 out of 10. I really, really like this class. I would definitely take it again. I just feel it was the perfect balance of getting the recovery you needed, but then also pushing. I like that there's no walking. We were here to work today, and I'm really proud of the work that I did. Difficulty, I would give an 8 out of 10. I think that the pushes were hard, but again, I do think that we got a good amount of recovery, and I feel every interval I was starting at least semi-fresh, and I could do everything. So that always feels really good. So today was absolutely fantastic. I have really been loving these pace target classes so far. It is now a few days later and I'm ready for my next run. And for this video, I definitely want to try like a couple different pace target class types. So today we're doing something new. I'm going to be taking a 60-minute progression run by Mariana Fernandez from November 4th, 2024. The description is, finish your week strong with a gradual progression run led by Mariana. It's your longest run yet, aiming for a goal of 5 to 6 miles. So I'm guessing that this is part of the 10K program since there's like mileage associated with it. But I think that it'll be fine. Like I enjoyed the last one as a standalone. This one should also be good. This one is interesting because after a warm-up, we do 27 minutes of easy pace and then 23 minutes of moderate pace, and that's the whole workout. Easy pace for me is 6, which is a 10-minute mile, and moderate pace is 6.5, which is a 9-minute, 14-second mile. And especially the easy pace, 10 minutes, I would never run that for 27 minutes straight. So I want to take this class to force myself to go slower, really gonna try to keep my heart rate down, and I'm interested to see how it goes. But this is the kind of training I wanna do. I need to practice going slow, so then hopefully that'll help me go fast later. My only concern about this class is that it could get boring, but I do like Mariana, I do like her music choices. So if there's someone that can get me through it, hopefully it's her. So let's go to the gym, hit the tread, and run for 60 minutes. I would love to know the science behind why treadmill runs feel so much harder than outdoor runs. I don't know if I'm just like more distracted on outdoor runs. And this truly wasn't that bad, but it was definitely harder than I expected. I feel like I do have some false confidence in my running ability, but we did make it through it. I really did enjoy this class. I really liked Mariana. She played a lot of alternative music and pop music. That's my kind of music genre, so the music was really good for me, which is definitely important on a steady state run. My Peloton app did decide to humble me and not record any of my distance. This has not happened to me before. Like it tracks the distance based on the Apple Watch, but for some reason it like wouldn't track my distance, but it tracked my heart rate, which is good because I can get the distance from the tread. So I did basically 6 miles flat in the 60-minute run, which is about what I was expecting with a 10-minute warm-up that had some walking and then 50 minutes of easy and moderate pace. The warm-up was very simple and easy. We mostly did like recovery walks and jogs, and then we did like some drill, but we didn't even push into like our easy or moderate pace in the warm-up. It was like a very long warm-up, which I was fine with. Then we got into our first section of 27 minutes at easy pace, so 6.0. This felt pretty good. I was kind of hoping that I could keep my heart rate in zone 2, but unfortunately I could not, but I stayed in zone 3 the whole time. I didn't go up to zone 4 ever. And even a lot of it was like low 150s. My zone 4 cutoff is 164. So it wasn't like I was that close to zone 4, so I was feeling pretty good. Mariana the whole time offered like some hills, nothing crazy, never above 2%. We usually went 1%, 2%, usually for like a minute or two maximum. And I like that, keep it a little bit interesting, you know, add a little bit of incline. Definitely pushed up my heart rate a little bit, but then we got a lot of time at 0%. So definitely like a lot of time not on hills. And then we got into moderate pace, which definitely was harder for me. So this was 6.5, 9 minutes and 14 seconds. And basically I was in zone 4 for the majority of this. Towards the bottom of zone 4, I don't think I was ever over 170 beats per minute, and the top of my zone 4 is 184. So still room for improvement, but not completely awful. I could definitely see myself do this run in the future and like try to keep my heart rate down even more. I'm also for heart rate training. I'm not exactly sure like if it makes a difference if you run in the morning versus like in the nighttime. I do eat breakfast before this, but I don't eat like a huge breakfast. So I don't know if that makes any sort of difference, but it was good. Definitely pushed towards the end. I was like, wow, I'm really sweating it out. which is interesting because I just feel like 9 minutes and 14 seconds for me is a good running pace, but it's not like the fastest I can do. But it just felt hard on the tread, and to like stick to that for 23 minutes straight and not change your pace at all. But I'm glad I did it, and I would definitely do this in the future. And overall, like, I did enjoy this class. Mariana was talkative, which is good. Like, I feel like she was quiet at some points, but a lot of times she was kind of gabbing, and I need someone to distract me. So she was doing a good job kind of talking about, like, you know, preparing for this 10K, which is not super relevant for me right now, but I didn't mind it. I feel like it was good and motivational to listen to. And yeah, I'm proud of myself that 52% of the class I stayed in zone 3, and then I was in zone 4 for 27%, zone 2 for 15%, and zone 1 for 5%, and zone 5 for 0. Difficulty today, I would give like a 7.0 out of 10. The easy pace felt really good. Like, I did not feel gassed at all coming into the moderate pace, but the moderate pace did amp it up quite a bit. And, you know, holding that for 23 minutes is not something that I typically do on the tread. So it's just something to get used to. Enjoyability, I would give like an 8 out of 10. I do think that it's hard to keep you entertained for the whole hour, especially when you're not changing a lot of things. But I did like the little hill ads. I feel like that kind of got something new. I like the music. I like Mariana. It was an enjoyable class. And yeah, I just like love the pace targets. It just feels so personalized. And overall, it was a good class. Like, I feel accomplished, but I don't feel completely gassed. So a good 60-minute class. And I think I'm gonna flip-flop next time and amp up the intensity a little bit. It is now a few days later, it's Saturday morning, and I'm gonna wrap up this video with a pace targets class that I'm definitely nervous for. But you know, it's Saturday, I can go hard, I have no excuse. It is a 30-minute intervals run by Johns Hosking from November 4th, 2024. And I did want to try a class like this, although I am very scared. Basically, there's a lot of hard and very hard intervals for kind of a long time. Like, for example, you start off, you have a minute and a half of hard, then a minute and a half of easy, and then a minute and a half of very hard. And then you go up to 2.5 minutes of each of those paces. So there is recovery, but I just feel like this sounds like a very, very hard class, and definitely like spending a lot more time in the higher intervals than other classes. The difficulty is 8.4 rated by members, which has been pretty high compared to some of the other classes I saw. So, you know, we'll see how it goes. I'm a little nervous. I'm a little excited. I think that this will push me. And like, usually when I take Peloton classes on the tread, I feel like I never try to push myself this hard. So we'll see. I'm interested. So that's going to be the only pace targets run for today. I think I'll be pretty gassed after it. So let's go to the gym, hit the tread, and hopefully not die while doing this intervals run. Well, that class was really something. It was extremely hard, and I honestly feel like John was not like briefed on what pace targets were, because I know that there's like the whole discourse about if an instructor should be doing the call outs, but like he was obviously not doing the call outs, because the call outs would have been extremely hard if you were doing them in your pace targets, which I knew that going in because I can see the paces and I knew that this was going to be a huge push. And then he added incline on top of it, which just like was absolutely killer. And I feel like a bit cruel, because essentially the structure of the class was hard pace, and then 1 minute easy pace, and then very hard pace, and then 1 minute easy pace. And you just repeated that over and over again with different lengths of intervals. We did a minute and a half, then 2.5 minutes, then 2 minutes, then 2.5 minutes. And every single time we did very hard pace, except for the first one, he wanted 2% incline, which I just feel like very hard pace for 2.5 minutes is already very, very hard. And then to add 2% incline is just like absolutely bonkers. And yeah, so I did the first interval and I was already feeling pretty bad. And then At the second interval, I made it through the hard pace for 2.5 minutes. I think that was at 1%. And then I made it through, I think like the first minute and a half of very hard at 2%. And then I just took off incline and didn't add any incline for the rest of the class. It was just like way too hard for me. And then after that breaking point, I also started walking the recoveries instead of doing easy pace because I needed the recovery. And even doing that, it was very, very hard. Like I am proud of myself for doing it and like even proving to myself that I can run 2.5 minutes at my very hard pace, which is 8.6, which is a 7-minute mile. Like I am proud of myself. And honestly, once I did the very hard paces for 2.5, the hard paces, which was 7.8 and is like a 7-minute 40-second mile, felt like not easy, but also not hard. So I feel like it helped like show that I can run faster than I think, but I just feel like at some point my heart rate was going absolutely crazy, so high. Like how beneficial is this to me to be taking a class like this? My heart rate was in zone 4 for 56% of the time, which is already very, very high. And if I kept the incline on, I mean, I don't even know if I've been able to do it, but it definitely would have pushed up to zone 5. Like I was over 180, which does not really happen to me anymore for running. So that's how I knew that I was working very hard. My iPad is having all kinds of issues now. It did not record the distance again, but my tread said I did around 3.3 miles, which is a lot for a 30-minute class considering, you know, I was walking the recoveries and we did walking in the beginning. We were just like really, really working in this class. And yeah, I just think that I would not take a class like this again. I mean, I think the solution would be to go down a level, but I would rather just take other classes more that I feel like are structured better. I typically like John, and I don't feel like his classes are like super, super hard. So I don't really understand. I just feel like there's like a big disconnect between the other pace targets classes that I've taken, which like some were challenging, but it felt like a good challenge, while this just felt like an impossible challenge. And I would be curious for these 8.4 difficulty raters, the people that rated it under 8.4, like what level were you doing it at and how could you possibly think that this was easy? Because I would give this like a 10 out of 10 in difficulty. I could not do it. I literally had to modify. Like I think that I would have like fallen off the tread if I left the incline on. Enjoyability, I would give like a 5 out of 10. It is kind of enjoyable like post the class to see that, yeah, I could hold the intervals at least for the assigned minutes. But I just feel like when he's calling out things that are really, really hard, like it's not enjoyable to me. Like I like a challenging class, but I like to be able to do the class. And honestly, I don't know like how I could even work up to a class like this. Like it would take a long time. And yeah, I feel like when he was like 2% incline for the very hard intervals, like man, oh man, I was not a happy camper. So interesting way to wrap up this video. I did want to try it and now I know probably not for me in the future. I will be looking at all the class plans, but overall I still really, really love the concept of pace targets. And I like love the idea of basically just taking the pace target classes in the future. It doesn't seem like they come out with that many. I don't know if there's more on the tread and they like block you from seeing them in the app, but I'm hoping that they continue to develop into this because I really think that this is like a great way to run. It really feels a lot more customized than just having a large range to choose from. So I'm really, really happy with this. I love power zone training. So I see this coming like hand to hand. But that's just like another thing to comment going back to this class is that like I've taken power zone max training classes and obviously those are very, very hard as well. But I just feel like you hold the hard intervals in pace targets for a lot longer than the hard intervals on the bike. But that's my final opinion on pace targets. I still really like them. I'm really happy that Peloton added them, and yeah, I'm excited to take more in the future. If you've taken pace target classes, let me know what you think. Let me know if there's any classes that you really, really like. I definitely like Beck's classes a lot and Matt's. I honestly like all of them. I feel like I will take a range in the future of like the endurance runs and more of the metrics runs. Probably not so many interval runs though. That is it for this video. I hope you guys are staying safe, having an awesome week, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.